Hey everyone, checking in on the sector. Monday is my least favorite day to do these videos because I have to choose between 30 tickers from over the weekend and narrow it down. That's what we've done. You can see them at the top of the names here, top of the screen. Starting it off with TLRY, we just had earnings released. We had a dump, we had a significant bounce, and here we are fading back down. Bottom line is it's a bullish reaction at this point, and the CEO doing a pretty good job on CNBC. Not a huge reaction, but clearly this is bullish for the sector as a whole. On the initial pullback, everybody saw their bid and ask after hours drop. CRON, CGC, APHA, ACB. And then as soon as we saw the bull move, it shifted upwards a little bit. So definitely a correlative, I don't know if that's a word, correlative. It is now. Correlative impact on the sector as a whole, but not a huge difference for TLRY. And here on the daily time frame, 73.75, we're probably going to break that level tomorrow, and the next resistance level that we're going to be looking at is up at 78.68 and actually 76.13 and then 78.68. So those will be the levels that we're watching. The high pre-market will also be a resistance level to be watching at 76.75, and we'll see if these bulls continue to show their strength. Today was a very notably strong day in the sector, starting to feel a little bit like euphoria, but that's all right, taking advantage of it while it's still here. We had some awesome plays in ACB and VFF first thing this morning. We had some really nice continuation plays from some swings, IAM, KHRN, we'll touch on those. And let's start it off. CGC is still giving us red flags. Again, the S&P 500 has now seen higher lows 7 days in a row, and CGC is not seeing any strength relative to that. The good news for the sector is obviously bulls are being able to do their own thing. We're seeing money jump around, in my opinion, from individual names, individual runners, and we're able to see strength without CGC correlation. So the correlation of the MJ sector has broken while CGC trades sideways. Keep in mind that's very important because it's a lot easier, in my observation, in cryptocurrency and in regular stocks, that when something is trading sideways, that's when things can really break correlation, but it doesn't mean we're not going to pick right back up. Meaning if CGC were to see a 5% red day tomorrow and a break of this triple bottom, it would weigh on the entire sector, in my opinion. So the correlation can come back, but clearly in this 3 days of sideways trading, it's not really been a factor. So we have a triple bottom down at 44.97. If that level breaks, is that the equilibrium breaking? You could argue it either way. For me, it would be yes, because we had our resistance at 48.01. We formed a base of support. We saw the bulls today make their move to try and see a continuation. They were quickly rejected. And that to me tells me that if we break 45 or make that 44.97, that's going to be a loss of the higher lows. So just in my criteria, that would be the loss, but I wouldn't argue too long with somebody if they were trying to argue that for them, that wouldn't be the loss of the higher lows. So break is imminent, as always. We're watching for the volume spike. The volume spike is going to dictate that the break is for real when it's happening. 46.63 is the high of today, 48.01 after that, and a little bit of relief. Again, the earnings after hours for TLRY saw even CGC with just a slight uptick in bid and ask, but just another point in favor of those bulls. So CGC, while CGC breaking bearish, if it broke bearish, it would not completely ruin everybody's setup. A lot of these names are going to consolidate healthy, but in my opinion, that would be the catalyst for that consolidation in the sector to take place if it was a bear break. So even just looking at VFF, healthy weekly consolidation for 2-3 weeks is going to be just fine for the bulls, and that could be an entry opportunity for a lot of people who have missed that run. So CRON closed at the high of the day. The key resistance for me is the daily lower high at 22.34. Anything under that is a lower high, but the bulls shifting that momentum. Daily inside bar broke bullish. Very similar start to the day for CGC and CRON, completely different end of the day, with CRON obviously being bullish, closing up at the high of the day after hitting a new high. And if we look at the weekly for CRON, keep an eye on things, because if we break that 22.34 resistance, we're right back looking at the all-time high, essentially, 24.37, 25.10. So, we're in a position where if that level breaks, maybe perhaps some nicely timed news could have us looking back at those all-time highs. But it's all about 22.34. That's the line in the sand for me. If the bulls don't break that, they don't prove anything. ACB, great continuation. Gap up open. Profit taking first thing to fill that gap, no big deal. and then the bulls turned around significantly and saw that follow through. So in the first 5 minutes of trading, we were looking for a dip on ACB and VFF because of their gap up opens. And the most common play and the easiest way to see strength is when you see a open that is a gap up open, you see profit taking, and then you just see a V-shaped recovery from that profit taking right back to a new high of the day. So that's what you're looking for, and that's exactly what VFF gave us. 2 minutes, first 2 minutes of the day, we're weak. Next 2 minutes, we completely recover, and then a minute after that, we get the new high of the day. And from that point on, the low of the day is the most important support level, because it would be a big red flag to go from a new high of the day to a new low of the day. But once you get that high of the day, that's a support being established, and you're bouncing up and reacting off of that. And obviously, it was all bulls on that follow through. So what I've witnessed in my observation in this sector is that the big money bulls are playing musical chairs to a certain degree, where they're choosing the names that have, in my opinion, there's groups out there that are choosing the names with a ton of liquidity that are traded on the major exchanges. We saw CRON go crazy, blue sky breakout. We're seeing ACB go crazy. APHA just started to stir today, and it was a clear laggard play. And to me, just through observation, it looked to me like money was leaving ACB and going into APHA. The high of the day on ACB was hit at 950. And then we pulled back, and a lower high, higher low, equilibrium bear break. Bear break occurred at about 1 p.m. And then we had a double bottom. A lot of nice trading opportunities in ACB today. But the point is that we clearly saw some profit taking after a very significant bull move in the later morning. And then APHA on the 5-minute time frame starts the morning strong, completely fades after 5 minutes. Look at it going in the opposite direction. So we have a higher open on ACB and on VFF and those names, and they dump. And then they see bulls buy the dip in a strong run. And here we had the bulls buying first thing on APHA, and then we consolidated for 40 minutes. And while everybody else was seeing a lot of action, a lot of new highs, I looked around and APHA was still just barely break even, right around red. And everybody's going nuts with their strong mornings and bull moves. And I stopped paying attention to APHA until the new high of the day was hit, and we were up just testing $10 just like that. So we established a higher low, and it was a laggard play. Everybody was bullish in the morning. APHA took its time, and then at about 11 a.m. saw that clear bull break and a ton of follow through from that bull break. After we hit that new high of the day, it's over a 5% move. And from there, a strong close. So got up to the high, little bit of a double top, but we're right there as we look towards tomorrow. So for APHA, the daily chart is now a higher low and a higher high. Look at the volume just dropping off, getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Clear bull break and spike in volume. And if the bulls can see more than 9 million shares traded on the US tomorrow, that would be huge. But this is a significant shift, and 1053 and 1068 are the next two resistance levels to be watching. Again, the last 3 months, the market has been giving the ideal trading environment for bulls in the marijuana sector. So if we see that continue, as it has been for the last 7 days in a row without fail, if that continues, we're going to be watching, is the volume going to come in? The surprising bull volume that's giving us heads ups on CWEB, it's given us a heads up on ACB. If that's going to pick up, then we're going to be watching for APHA to potentially be the next runner with this tight weekly pattern. If we break 1095, we're out in the open, just like ACB on the weekly broke its resistance of 834 and was out in the open. What I mean by that is a lack of resistance due to the size of the dump back in November. So volume the rest of this week, specifically tomorrow, is going to tell us, is big money going to run this? Is SPY going to hold up and give the ideal environment for a bull run? And if it doesn't, we're just looking for SPY to consolidate and give us a daily high or low, but it might slow things down a little bit. Again, APHA, there was an instance today where I was watching the correlation between it and SPY on the 5-minute time frames, and SPY was pulling back a pretty good bit for about 20-30 minutes, and APHA was able to ignore it. So that's a possibility as well. All about volume for me. If we break 1068 tomorrow on more than 9 million shares traded, we're probably going to see APHA be as the next major runner here on the weekly. The major names that are seeing these one at a time major bull moves. OGI, all-time highs approaching. So this is the tightening range that got a bull break in this instance. 950, 812, higher low. Lower high is 920. Higher low is 879 with almost a triple bottom there. Increase in bull volume. Bull break over 920. Just like that, we're looking back at the all-time high, 950. Anything on the daily above 879 keeps the bulls in full control, and that's the only resistance level we're looking at. So another test of blue sky breakout is coming up. There's a lot of names pushing blue sky breakout levels. HEXO, that's really what we're looking up at. So huge day for the bulls. Inside bar, bull break. As soon as you get over 825, the inside bar breaks bull. Great turnaround after 2 week closes in a row. That's exactly how you come out to start the week, just all bull. And so the break is 825, and people talk about fake outs and being scared to enter tightening ranges. Just got to remember what I was going to say here. So 825 is the bull break, and 840 is the confirmation. So you're seeing a tightening range. On the daily, the inside bars tell us we're likely looking at an hourly equilibrium. So we pull up the hourly equilibrium. We have our high of 840, the low of 805, lower high of 825, held support 809, right at the end of the day, just barely. And then first thing, we see a bull surge, and breaking 825 and 840 on the same candlestick does so much for confidence. If you break 825 and you putter around at 832 and you start to consolidate a little bit, it's a completely different scenario than if you smash on huge volume the first two resistance levels. And I was just calling that candlestick the 5-minute candlestick. Looks like in the morning it took about 12 or so minutes to get that bull break. Bottom line is there was no weakness until both of those levels broke, and we got that kind of follow through. So very easy to keep your bullish conviction on a name that takes out multiple levels, break, confirmation, and then follows through the rest of the day. TRST, clear bull shift as well, inside bar, and a bull move to the upside, 1047. Our lower high on the daily was 1220. Got that real tight pattern, new support established 1161, and just ideal follow through. A little bit of volume preceding price in this instance, very tight range, very high volume. But again, that was quad witching, where we did see some strange things happen right at the close. Just want to check real quick if that is what happened, and it is. So quad witching for the volume there, but beautiful close. It's 1261, which we broke. 1320 is the next key resistance level. Healthy 2 weeks, 3 weeks of consolidation, and now bulls are ready to give it another go. VFF, can't speak highly enough for this bull, and gotta love when I first started doing the videos, I forget where it was, maybe between $5 and $7 or so, and the people on Stocktwits, shout out to the VFF Stocktwits bulls, because they were talking $20 back at a time where it was like, yeah, okay. And that's just my experience with penny stocks. I've traded penny stocks for a lot of years, and it's just full of pumpers and people that fell in love with the story of their stock, and they're so emotionally attached and so helplessly involved in these companies that you've seen it 150 times. But in this instance, they were right, which is a rare occurrence. But shout out to the troopers over there. So a higher low on the daily, 1630. Anything above that higher low, they're just fine. We close at the high of the day. And again, we look at the weekly chart and we know, okay, we're in blue sky breakout. Things can get overextended. But again, we also know that this is the kind of a bull move that we very easily see 20, 30+% of a pullback once that top is hit. That being said, it's been a beautiful daily uptrend with no fake outs, where anybody riding this daily uptrend every day has just been ecstatic on a weekly basis that this is still running. So shorter term time frames, we've got support at 2086, and that's the level to keep the bulls in full control. Of course, they want to break that high first thing tomorrow morning, 2195, 22, 23 psychological levels. And again, even if we lose the hourly uptrend, we just zoom out to the daily and we look for a daily higher low to be established, and we keep an eye out for hourly oversold conditions, because we know those are the rare opportunities where we do see entry opportunities for bulls looking for a bounce. And VFF had one here. I'm not seeing it because the candlestick, when it was at the low of the candlestick, is when we were oversold. It was the US ticker. I'm looking at Canadian right now. So the volume is still Canadian favored, where we've got a lot more Canadian volume than US volume at this point. And that's something we're keeping an eye on, because in general, we usually see a shift once that uplisting comes. TGOD, perfect follow through. So again, this is another one where the correlation stood out to us, or I should say the difference in TGOD versus the sector. So this was back on Thursday, and if you look at that video, again, it's not the kind of thing where it's like this is a clear bull buy signal. It's the kind of thing where it says something's going on here. It's standing out better than everybody else, so that puts it to the top of the watch list for the next day to say, all right, can we break 445 and shift that momentum? And it was a very similar pattern to what we were looking at on a lot of these other tickers. OGI stands out specifically, but this is OGI's day on Thursday. A weekday, the lowest close that we've seen in the last 5 days of trading. No volume, no nothing. Clearly a little bit of a bear lean. And if you compare that to the day that we had on TGOD that same day, lower wick of bulls buying the dip, closed near the high of the day. Resistance going to be tested first thing. Green Marabozu the next day. Increasing bull volume. Break of 462 was the go signal. As soon as that level is cleared, there is a lack of resistance that allows the bulls to move. It was just 498, and then we're looking up. After 498, the next zone of resistance is up around $6. So that's why we're watching APHA, because if it gets its bull break on the weekly, then it's entering that area where the money can really push it with the lack of resistance. And is still a 4-hour equilibrium that we're patiently waiting on. It's just 74 to 80 is the range. I've drawn it so many times at this point, but high, low, lower, high, higher, low, lower, high. So it's 79 and 80 as the key resistances, and 74 is the key support. And we're right in the middle of it. Something's going to break probably tomorrow. CURA. So good sign for the bulls. With that open, we know that the 5-minute end of the day action on Friday was some kind of rebalancing, because if there was any meaningful follow through behind it, we would have started down in the mid $8 range. But that's obviously telling us that that was a 5-minute candlestick. There was a flush, and the market makers and the market adjusted for that little anomaly and got the higher open. So just a tightening range, not a whole lot going on. Support down at 903. Resistance is 928 and then 950. And have to see, again, it's just not as strong as so many other names. So I'm not interested in CURA at this point because there are so many other better setups. IIPR inside bar broke bullish first thing, new all-time highs. This is the unsung hero of the MJ sector, first ever NYSE IPO for the MJ sector, and a close at the all-time high. So 87, 88 are the resistance levels to be watching. We know daily consolidation is coming soon, but a loss of the hourly uptrend will give us that initial heads up. Some profit taking at the end of the day. Hourly high or low not established today, so we know an hourly consolidation period is likely coming sooner rather than later. Throat's burning. CXXI bulls showed up in a big way. So we were being a bit uncertain for 2 days. It was not seeing the kind of action that other names were seeing. We saw the bulls clearly today show up. Again, a lot of these names with just the kind of a very powerful bull day. And again, it's volume. First thing, volume on the hourly, the first hour of trading, we were looking at, let's see, it was 1.25 million. And the entire day of Friday was 1. So, and that's with some quad witching volume, I assume. So that tells you in the first hour of trading, it's going to be a big day, especially with the break of 170. There's the entry into an area with a lack of resistance. Look at this daily chart and look at KHRN. And this just popped into my mind right now. And that's a little bit of how a good memory helps with technical analysis. I haven't looked at the KHRN chart today. I looked at it yesterday, but just recognizing the same pattern, and that's what helps with correlation, saying, oh, that looks a really similar setup to KHRN. So then I just compare them and say, how did they turn out and who gave a signal first? KHRN broke bullish yesterday, got great follow through today. CXXI out of nowhere, bulls showing up today, but perhaps a clue with those setups looking so similar that KHRN gave a little bit of an early signal. Either way, congrats to the bulls with the volume. Break of 170, we're now looking at really up towards 2 psychological as the next resistance level. And the bulls trying to get follow through after the weekly higher low has been established. Still a ways to go. If you showed me this chart, I would say the most likely scenario is a lower high compared to 206. But if there's a market environment where we can just see V-shaped, this is currently it, with strength in the sector and strength in the overall market. Hourly higher low on CXXI is end of the day at 178. So KHRN, beautiful follow through, solid volume, second day in a row. Nice surge at the end of the day. Real strong bull push closing up at the high. And all-time high is probably going to be tested this week, if not tomorrow. 435's right there. Bulls want it. And hourly high or low here. Nice and established on the way up. That's been my guide. I'm in a swing trade. I think I initiated my entry Friday. I forget exactly, but the hourly uptrend has been my guide. And every time we set an hourly high or low, that's me moving up my stop. And I'm on the OTC with KHRNF. So I'm at the computer each day, which is fortunate because I'm just manually, doing that, but not having to exit. So all-time high test likely. IAN, increasing ramp up on bull volume. It's all about 806. Again, I would anticipate a most likely scenario of being unable to break that initially and needing to consolidate just because we are getting a bit extended. I mean, if this ramp of bull volume continues, we can absolutely get over that level, but I'm going to be a bit cautious for some potential climaxes of volume tomorrow on some of these names. And again, it depends on what the S&P 500 does to a certain degree, but when I see something like this, it just has me start to get prepared for healthy consolidation. Hourly high or low is 740 on IAN. And we'll wrap it up with CWEB, new all-time high, double top the last time, push through it. Still not a very convincing break. The bulls want to get over 23 tomorrow. Doesn't even have to be tomorrow. I mean, we've got a bunch of space to work with for a higher low. It's been a very significant recovery. Again, CWEB stood out to us early on due to the bull volume, due to the continuation move with other names still trading sideways when that bull break happened. And on the weekly time frame, a new all-time high. But again, want to avoid anything that looks double toppy like that. So we'll see if we get some follow through tomorrow with the hourly higher low down at 22.02. Some tangents mixed in there. Hope you're doing well. Do some good things. That felt like forever, but it was only 22. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey everyone, for this chapter, what are we on? 11? Something. We're heading over south, so just curled around, pretty much entered the middle of the state, Colorado, from the east, went through Boulder, went through Rocky Mountain National Park, went over into Aspen area, and then curled down into the south into Durango. And this is a little colorful rainbow lizard guy on his way. So I went to Mesa Verde National Park, which is a beautiful spot. And you can see how the landscape has changed from the giant mountains into more of a arid, deserty kind of feel. They've got Great Sand Dunes National Park down in this area of the state as well. But this is the area where they built right into the cliffside walls thousands of years ago. And these tribes are so fascinating with what they did. The soft sandstone, you can see where their handholds were as they would climb in and out of these valleys. And they would use them for, I should say, in and out of these, the side of these cliffs. They used them obviously for protection, and they had some really cool construction that's still around these days. And the petroglyphs are everywhere. And petroglyphs are really everywhere in the southwest part of the country, as well as the middle of the country here in Colorado. And it's really cool to just see, to stand literally where someone stood thousands of years ago and drew something that they felt was important enough to try and have it etched into time. And in a lot of instances, there's these common themes like these swirls. We'll look at some more that I went to in Utah, but there's so many places where you can literally just, drive on a dirt road up to these petroglyphs and check them out with, no fees, no tours, none of that. They're just right there, which exposes them to, graffiti or whatever. But fortunately, some of them are left alone, but a lot of cool different swirl things. We can only speculate as to what they were trying to show. And another cool thing that this tribe of Native Americans did was they pretty much selected seeds, genetic modification in a more natural way, not, splicing genes and stuff, but they would save seeds from certain strains of grass, and they created corn out of a strain of grass. So this is what it looks like in terms of, the valley that they were inside of on the sides of the cliffs. But they would take these strains of grass and save the seeds for the ones that had the biggest, seeds. And then just over thousands of years, they ended up with a crop that had a head of fat corn. And it doesn't look like the corn that we have today, obviously, because that's just using further science to get it to the point where we want it. But a lesser degree, they were using genetic modification and seed selecting to create a crop. So, quickie chapter here. We're going to head on over to Telluride next. I love Telluride. Ended up impromptu stopping at a music festival, the Ride that they have every year, and met someone through couch surfing. I've never stayed at anybody's place during couch surfing, but got some great tips on volunteering at this music festival and a place on where to camp for free right outside of town. And that was a wonderful, again, just another unexpected stop. It seems like the highlights of my entire trip were all ones that I didn't plan and were all from word of mouth from other people who knew better than I. So we'll head on down there and again, check out Colorado and Utah. Great 2 states right next to each other. You can make it, a week or 2 road trip and get a lot of sightseeing. I mean, you could really make it a 2-month road trip if you wanted to, but those 2 states together, just the fact that they're next to each other and there's so many national parks within a pretty close radius, I would suggest it. So we'll check back in. Hope you have a good rest of your day. See you soon.